So the first question I have is for Daniel and Dan. Are there any plans to conduct another similar survey that you did? And if so, when will that take place?
Well, Daniel, what do you think?
I think, well, Dan, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say we don't have a formal um, we don't have a formal plan to do that. We have had a lot of input. We've had downloads of, I think, over 400 copies of the report. So Daniel and I have worked together for years, and it certainly, if there's an interest, I think we're open to doing that. But Daniel, comment, please.
Sure. I think we've talked a little bit about, how we would, approach this going forward. And, as Dan said, if there's a high demand for updates to this report, we can certainly explore that.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, Zach, a couple questions for you. For the LiDAR pilot, did you guys choose fewer stalls due to the costs, or was it because of something else?
Yeah, it was because of the cost. So we felt, or talking with the vendor, we could accurately capture those 6 stalls. But if we were to expand it beyond that, we weren't sure the accuracy of the information that we'd be pulling in through that point cloud and through the analytics software.
Okay. And then how do the truck drivers feel about what is being provided in the available spaces? Is it consistent for what they're looking for, or are there issues?
So I was really interested to see when Dan was presenting, based on that, reaching out to the different communities, ask what's important to them. And we've not done a truck specific questionnaire for Kentucky on their thoughts on our current TPIMS practices. However, I would assume that accuracy of that information is critical. And I've heard at the national level that which we've seen firsthand with how we're currently reporting, if there weren't for the human ground truthing, those numbers could be really inaccurate that we're publishing to those signs. And so I think that if I were to speak for the trucking community, there is probably a hesitation to trust the number that you see on the sign. And our hope is through better technology and being able to share the messaging and the story behind, we hear you, we understand we have a responsibility to provide accurate information to these signs when we broadcast this information. And our hope that our technology will back that up, and then we'll be able to publish accurate information in a real time, both to those public signs that are on the road in advance of those stalls, but also to the different partners and agencies where we submit this information to and where they pull that in real time. Did I answer your question, Nick?
I think so, yeah.
Hey, Nick, can I
Okay,
just
thank
jump
you.
on that and follow up with Zach?
Yeah,
First of all, they
go
cheer
ahead.
Zach on for counting spaces. We have a substantial amount of data, about 7,000 drivers worth of what do they want. They absolutely want spaces. They don't want color coding. Nobody knows the difference between red and orange and yellow. So that's good. We also have research on our website that shows that drivers have some concerns about the accuracy of the system. And even the AASHTO research has info on that. But to be honest, if the system's wrong to the driver at about 2.2 times, they'll never trust it again, and they'll share that information with all the other thousands of drivers they know. So there is quite a bit of pressure on us to get the accuracy as high as we can.
Yeah. And that's why we're focusing so much on the human verification and ground truthing with our current technology, but really emphasizing that accuracy with any technology that we're bringing onto our network moving forward. 100% hear you, Dan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. Okay, David, a couple questions for you. What is the typical length of a smart loading zone?
They can vary. We have one smart loading zone is stretch. It'll cover 7 vehicles. Other ones are the normal by code. I think it's 20 feet for one vehicle. So we have the ability to make them long as we need them depending on the neighborhood and the demand. And the camera is able to cover that. And if we need to, we would add an additional camera there.
Okay, great. And then how did you make the delivery commercial folks adjust their practices to use the smart loading zones, do you have issues with people continuing to do the double parking and other unsafe practices?
We've seen a significant increase in the reduction of double parking. We're still working with larger delivery services to get them to comply with it. But once we start going with automated enforcement and they're receiving tickets now, it seems like that's the educating point where people receive a ticket once, they're more likely to register for the spot then going forward.
Okay. I got two more questions for you.
Okay.
If I
Go ahead.
can,
Please, everyone.
if I could jump on that too, we haven't gotten into directly the enforcement side of it, which is the fee that we're going to be imposing on it. But the fact that we are having this conversation and actually people are participating. Like I said, a lot of our folks actually start coming in, and the travel we have seen past, and that's been very helpful. But also part of building out our flex zones is we've also increased the number of unloading zones we've had, which is something we found we had a shortage of, and it's been able to make sure not having travel lane double occur.
Diane, it's correct.
Okay.
The enforcement drives up compliance. You need a good enforcement.
Sure. Okay, David, was there an observed trend of having everyone utilize the loading zones instead of the usual paid zones? Like, as the 30 minutes free, right? Did this result in loading zones unavailable for users who actually needed it?
No, I think because our practice before that was antiquated, we just had 30-minute loading zones posted by signs. And again, that was labor intensive to enforce because you had to time them when we were there and come back. And it was basically a free half-hour parking for anyone. Even you didn't have to have a delivery vehicle to be in that spot. We don't see that as being a concern now. We've watched who have similar or the same concept we do with smart loading zones, where they do not give the grace period, but it was more of a political decision to get that we agreed to get the smart loading zones on the street, but we'll continue to evaluate that. But I do believe the grace period should go away sometime in the future.
Okay. And then did the businesses get hit with additional fees like freight charges or increased costs on goods by the delivery services when the zones got implemented? And I guess, well, this individual wants to talk to you further, so I could forward her information to you.
Okay.
But any thoughts on that?
No, we haven't heard anybody being asked to reimburse them for any additional fees or not. A lot of the big delivery organizations here kind of built that into their cost of doing business even prior to the smart loading zones. They had I guess almost a line item for tickets that they knew they were going to receive. So we haven't had that issue come up yet.
Okay. I guess this next question would be for Diana and or David. Are the loading zones for everyone, like rideshare drivers, freight, or other services like Amazon or trucks? Do they have? What if they are over like a certain weight or size? What happens?
So we haven't set weight or size as far as the loading zones are meant for delivery of freight goods. So that would fit in Amazon, that would fit in FedEx and UPS and everything, but it does not fit in. We've also, as part of our package, created passenger zones. So as we've identified where the unloading zones are, we've also during the day identified passenger unload zones. So that's where the Uber, Lyft, and the taxi go, so that we do not mixing with the folks that are delivering on goods and services to the downtown core or within that area. So we have actually separated out. They are within proximity, but it's no one's really going to get that front door service unless it's really tied to an ADA accessibility issue. So we do have that work through it. We have worked through that process. but we are requiring them to meet their for the zones for freight and delivery.
Okay.
It's the same with us. The weight limit is for delivery, and we don't control or look at the height and weight of the vehicle.
Okay. All right. Anna,
Actually, we've all, at the bottom of our QR codes, we actually put that identify that everything's up. We've been fortunate that we haven't had someone try to tag it, but if they were, they would most likely leave that off, and that is a really quick sign to our enforcement folks that they need to peel and get someone else out there so we can get that sign taken care of. About we don't call we call them enforcement. In Nashville, they're doing multiple jobs, responsible for not only enforcing the parking of people illegally parking overtime, whatever, but they're also responsible for citing violations for someone who is violating our sidewalk ordinance. They're responsible for enforcing our what we call our entertainment transportation vehicles. So if you've never been to Nashville, we have a bunch of folks that have taken buses and have designed them so that they're open air and people are on them to take rides through and be seen and hear music and all of the fancy activities that's happening on our lower Broadway. So there is a set of rules that they have to apply to that we actually have them doing. They're also doing helping us with the enforcement right now on the loading unloading zone as well as the passenger zone. And they also do a lot of the work throughout the county when it comes to illegal parking in the right of way. So we have them expanded to do multiple jobs, and we'll continue to add to those responsibilities. Where other folks have challenges, we're figuring out how we can use that enforcement in that capacity.
okay. For Zach, what is going to be the next steps after your demo project concludes, and are you going to end up choosing one technology over the other, or is it just going to be kind of a mix of things?
Yeah, and so the next steps for us are we are going to identify more than likely a singular technology that we're going to deploy across our existing 13 sites, but also any future truck parking facility that we may build either through a grant funded project or through capital funds. And so kind of order operations for that is, like I said, April of 2026. Our goal is to finalize this project, select that technology that's the best value for the cabinet. And I want to emphasize best value because that may not be lowest cost. Our values are incorporating into our existing systems, ensuring that it's accurate, ensuring that it meets our safety goals and supports our safe mobility outcomes. So all of that rolls into what will be that best value technology for the cabinet to install across all of these sites.
Right. Thank you. I think this might be for David and maybe Diana. How do you address members of law enforcement wanting to free parking for non-emergency purposes?
We do work with the city, and included in that is the police. They're allowed to park legally if they're in a marked vehicle, but if they're parked illegally, we will tag them.
Okay.
Yeah, we work
That's
very
a touchy
closely.
subject.
It is. It really is. It's that's why I giggled. I'm sorry, but I have to agree with David. We're in the same boat. If they're on official business, you know, we have designated space that we've created for the police to be parked in our downtown core. And if they're down on non-police business, they are to be acting like anyone else. So go find a parking, use a garage, whatever it is. We do have a lot of officers that do what we call secondary work which is where they might be in a bar for the evening and the bar's paying for them to be there. We have worked out with the police department that their vehicles cannot be in front of the bar. They actually have to like park it in the garage or somewhere, but it can't, or in the designated spaces we've created in the downtown area, but they do not have the rights to the parking, to the loading and unloading zone or the passenger or anything. And it's been a very tough conversation, but they do understand that they're part of the problem. And we're very fortunate that the chief is also very much willing to help us come up with a resolution that works for the police department, as well as for what we're trying to do of keeping the streets clear so that deliveries of goods and services can happen, and that also services that need to happen for folks that are coming to visit or patronize one of the businesses and stuff. We want to make sure that they're having consistent access. So it's a big conversation, and it is a tricky one.
Okay. I bet. It's probably keeping you busy. Okay, Diana, within the entertainment district, if most bars close at 3 a.m., is there ever a conflict with the deliveries between 3 and 4 as people are leaving?
Not as of yet. I will tell you, we have actually set the unloading time at non-peak to begin at 4 a.m. There is a little bit of a conflict, but I would say it hasn't been as terrible as we expected it to be. So we do have a few folks that come in at 3 o'clock because the bars do not want to stay open late, but a majority of the bars and the restaurants have decided to have someone there to receive the goods that are being brought in. So typically they are showing up after 4. So the 3 to 4 hasn't really been that big of an issue. Not to say one day it doesn't become an issue.
Okay. So you place your passenger zones outside of the downtown area. Have you had a lot of pushback from business owners about the smart loading zone changes and the loss of the free parking?
Well,
Diana?
we've never had free parking, so I'm going to give that one to David.
Okay. David?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So well, I guess this was directed to you, Diana, because you have your
Okay.
passenger zones outside you had said that the passenger zones are outside of the downtown area, right? Okay, so have you had pushback from business owners about smart loading zone changes, I should say, not charges, changes and loss of free parking?
I want to say it's a conversation that continues. And let me clarify one thing, if I may, please. It's not that we have them outside the downtown area. Lower Broadway is our main entertainment street, and it runs approximately 8 blocks. And so the passenger for the TNCs and taxi and pedicabs and all of those folks are actually on the streets that are one off of Broadway. So one of those streets is Commerce, another one of those streets is Demonbreun. So we have identified those pickup places for the TNCs and cabs and all of those other folks on that particular street. So when they come in, they actually can do drop off and pickups. If you are a hotel and have a valet, you can do the drop off and pickups to that area. But if you do not have a valet, and they only are allowed to stay for 3 minutes, just as an FYI. But if they do not have a valet, then they will have to take them, unfortunately, to a rideshare zone, because keep in mind, Broadway is closed. So there's not much access that anyone can have to the street anyway, from that time until they reopen it. And so they typically shut the street down about 7 p.m. in the evening, and they do not open it back up until around 3 a.m. in the morning. So there is really no access. I think that the way we have it established is kind of creating, is organizing the chaos, I want to say, because that's what it is people would just be looping and it's crazy, and now we have chaos. And so out of that, trying to organize that chaos was, hey, we need a place that we can stage until we get called in. Otherwise, we have no choice but to loop. So that was one of the challenges that came out of this conversation that we're now working on correcting that, so they have a place to stage until they get that call to come in and pick up their passenger.
Okay. This is the last question. I know we're a little over time here, but it's been a very robust conversation. For Zach, David, and Diana, all of the strategies that you're using from an operational standpoint, what does that mean for safety?
Well, for us, it was a big concern. Safety was a big concern, and unions addressed it with us, and we meet probably quarterly with them to discuss that. With automated enforcement now, it alleviates some of that concern. It takes away the interaction of the officer with the public, especially in enhancement districts in the evenings when there's alcohol involved. So now we have the ability with automated enforcement to ride up and down the street, determine if the meter was paid or not, and we download the information and issue the ticket the next day, eliminating the need for the officer to get out of the vehicle and actually interact with the public.
I would have to say for us, the safety is on every level. I had the opportunity to share with y'all that the pedestrian is our #1 mode in the downtown area. This past year, the airport reported over 24.8 million people coming through the airport. And we figure about 60% of those people actually come into the downtown. And they're either on their foot, on a scooter, or on an electric bike. And so we're really focusing on creating those safe mobility lanes for the active transportation or the micromobility to be in, so that we reduce those conflicts between the pedestrian and the micromobility, as well as the car. We look at also creating that pedestrian space where they're walking, so they're not in conflict. So even when we're dealing with the deliveries, we are very conscious and aware of where the pedestrians are designed to move at and how that is interacting with the delivery zones. So we've looked at safety from bottom to top and top to bottom to look at ways of minimizing the conflicts that happen. So we're not creating that. And I will tell you, there's been a lot of good lessons learned. We continue to adjust. And I think that's one thing you have to, that's been great about the flexible zone and calling them flexible zones versus it being an unloading zone or a parking zone or a passenger zone. We refer to them as a flexible zone. We've had the ability to adjust based on what real-time actions are occurring, what conflicts are occurring that maybe we didn't think would happen, but happen because when we all get down to the bottom of it, whether we're driving, walking, whatever it is, we're all human beings. And we're asking people to behave a certain way. And there are people that will, no matter what you do, no matter how you minimize the conflicts, no matter how great you design, whatever you do, you're not going to get the behavior you want. And so we try to figure out how to minimize that particular conflict that can create the biggest disaster that could lead to a fatality or serious injury. So safety is across the board at every level for us. And it even ties back to our signalization and how we are moving people in an automobile to reduce those conflicts. And so I think flexible zones are a really important part of this whole program that we've put together.
Yeah, Nick, and for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, as we're pushing our safe mobility goals, ensuring that we have safe facilities for our truck community is a critical piece of promoting safe mobility, both from a safety of the driver standpoint, as we touched on earlier, ensuring that our facilities are safe, that they're lit, that they have access to those conveniences that drivers need. But also safety looks like having available spots that are off of our limited access right of way, outside of our shoulders, and having that capacity for when that truck driver needs a spot to pull off, they can have access to that safely. They can trust our information that shares the availability of spots, so that they're not having to make that tough decision on that they're coming on, 10 minutes or less before they need to pull off, and they're forced to pull off without some sort of fine being occurred, that we have available spots that they can trust that information that we're pushing out. And so safe mobility for the cabinet is regardless of user. As Diana said, whether you're walking, biking, rolling, or driving a commercial vehicle, we want to make sure that our facilities are safe, that they are accurate in the information that we're pushing. And the goal is each one of those people, regardless of mode, is a human being. And so we're here to support them in that mode that they're using in those facilities that they're choosing to use across Kentucky.
Okay, fantastic. Kathleen, any final words from IPMI?
No, I think this was a great conversation. Thank you for having us. And we really can see the synergies and the cooperation between the three entities. So thank you so much for having us.
Okay, well, I just wanted to thank all of our speakers. Appreciate all of your thoughtfulness, your answers to all of the questions. Thanks to all of our participants as well. And again, this webinar will be up on our YouTube page, and hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you.